Here I'm going to do a video of taking apart the Artemis PP700SA. And the first thing that I'm going to do is pull off the sight, take off the moderator, then we'll do a complete disassembly except for the front gauge. So I don't want to take it apart if it's not leaking or nothing's wrong with it, in case if it causes problems. So I'll pull off the foldable stock, and that's a 2.5mm Allen wrench. And the next thing that we're going to have to do is degas it. And to degas, you just got to dry fire it down until you get your pressure low enough, and then you'll be able to push on the valve. To help so it's not so loud, you can put it inside of a case like this. Muffles it down a lot. Then once you get it low enough, you can just push the hammer on the back. Okay, once you hear the air stop, you can go ahead and just unscrew the air tube. And that it just came off of the regulator. And then if you were gonna need to take this apart, this back cap off the back side here, we'll just unscrew also. And there's that. Normally there would be an O-ring here, right at the edge of the threads, but I've taken it out and put in a Huma regulator. So I'll go ahead and see if these work. Just kind of slowly pull it out and wiggle. And that's what the regulator looks like. And normally this O-ring goes right there on the bottom side of the regulator. And then when I installed it, I opted to put a groove. I don't know if you can see that. Just a little tiny groove or a little notch right in the end of the air tube. There you can see it. It's just the relief so that the regulator can work. So when you do go to install it, you'll just make sure you got a lot of O-ring lube. I use the super lube, which works good. Make sure you have your bottom O-ring on. Then you just slide it in, slowly work it in across some threads. Until you get it to just past the threads. Then when you screw it, the base of it back on, that in. It'll make sure that that bottom O-ring is tight against here so that you don't have any leaks. And when doing that, you have to make sure to remove the O-ring here. And I can't remember if there was an O-ring here too that needs to be removed. So there'll be no O-rings on this piece. This will seal by pressing against that bottom O-ring on the regulator itself. And just push that down. And also to set that regulator, before I put it back in, if you look on the side, right there, there's a notch there. And you can use a flathead screwdriver into the top here, like so. That's going to focus. And then you can slowly adjust it to wherever you need. I keep it set right at, I've been trying 130. Before I put the regulator back in, I'm going to make sure to put a little bit of silicone lube on it. Whip it around slightly. Okay. And there's the end of the tube. The regulator will go in just like this. And just push it just past the threads. Slowly working it in there. Then we can grab our end cap, push it, then it can screw in. And then once you get so far, this cap will start pushing that regulator up and seal it tight. Opt not to put the groove in. You'll just leave your end cap, the part that goes into the stock regulator, just a little bit loose and leave just a little bit of a gap there. A little bit less than that. Then you don't have to make the little groove in your air tube. But I like everything to be tight, so I put the little notch there. And I marked it so that I made sure that the notch, when it's on the gun, will be at the very bottom. Now we'll go ahead and remove the barrel. That's pretty simple. This one has a Donny FL adapter on it right now. I'll just go through like that. And if you have the stock one, you can get it. I could pull mine off with my fingers, or you can use a little vice grips or something to take it off. Comes off like so. And then your shroud will come off. And then you can just unscrew the barrel. And it'll slide right out. Some people have problems with their barrel not coming out or unscrewing. It's from inside of there where your barrel screws into is a bushing. So you might have to try to hold it somehow. Next we'll go ahead and pull the regulator out. That's going to be a 2.5 millimeter. And we just got 4 screws here. Alright, when you get them 4 bolts out, your stock regulator will just pull straight up. Sometimes you kind of gotta twist a little bit with it, but it'll come straight out. And when you go to put it back, you'll know the top is where that little hole right there is. So when you go to put it back in, just make sure that hole is pointing upwards. It looks like. And I have all new O-rings I'm going to put in, be replacing all the stock ones with. We will go ahead and remove the stock, or the hand grip. And that, I think, is a 5mm. That's what this is. 4 or 5mm. Straight up. And then we'll go ahead and remove your hammer spring housing and grip housing. And that's just going to be for 2.5mm bolts. And if you wanted, you could remove your hammer spring tensioning bolt right there. That's how you'll adjust the hammer tension. Mine, I've been leaving it alone when I take it apart. That way, then when I put it back together, it's pretty close to where I need to be. And that's how that comes apart. There's nothing there except for a pin. The only thing left that you can take out is that adjustment screw. You'll get 4 screws. The 2 long ones go in the deep channels of the grip. I set those separate of all the other ones I have taken out. Next part we'll do is we'll take out the trigger. By doing that, we'll do the trigger guard first. Always your 2.5mm wrench. And there's just 3 screws to remove this. I'll set that off to the side over there. Then to remove everything with the trigger, we'll just take a punch. And we can start back here with the hammer. We'll take a little hammer here. Just give it a couple taps and I'll go almost all the way out. And there it drops out. I'll just take that pin and put it with the hammer, set it up there. And got two other ones. They're not quite as hard to pull out. It's a top pin. Another pin. That, and then last pin is the trigger itself. Okay, the next thing we'll do is we'll pull out the valve. And to do that, we're going to have to remove this set screw here first. And I think that is a 1.5 millimeter. See, get a close-up of that. There it is. You don't have to take it all the way out, just loosen it. Then there's supposed to be a wrench that you can use. I don't have it. I just move that block back and forth like that, and it will start slowly unscrewing that valve. And get it down far enough, you can push this block forward. And you can get your fingers on there and start to turn it. Kind of a slow way of doing it, but it works. There, it's loose, and it'll pop right out. Inside of there, just a open tube. Done with that. And this here, it's your valve. You can just go ahead and pull that out. Up here is your transfer port power adjustment. And let's see. And that's a 3 millimeter on that. There we go. You can see in there it's threaded down in there. I have mine turned out so that it's not pushing on there at all, and then I also have it Loctited. But when you go to put this back together, I'll pull that out, and when I get the valve in and tight, go this way, I will make sure that one of these transfer ports, the valve, line up through there. So I'll look down through, make sure it lines up. It should. Last time I took it apart, I sanded the face here. You can kind of see it. I just took a sharpening stone, since it's flat, and slowly went back and forth over it, and then tightened it up. Checked to see how far much more I needed to go before I got the holes lined up. I think originally mine was probably about like that, and then it took just a little bit of sanding to get it back up so that it's going straight up into the transfer port. So the reason I took this apart is I want to pull out the regulator, pull all the internals out of it, make a bigger hole here, and also enlarge this hole here so I get some more flow from my Huma regulator into here. And then it will completely eliminate this. So to take this one apart, we're going to need, we're going to use a 4mm wrench. And this would normally be your stock regulator adjustment screw right here. And normally you would be able to reach it from right here in your trigger guard. So you'd be able to go up through that hole there to adjust it. When taking this apart, be careful of your washers if you plan on putting them back together, on which way they're oriented. So you pull this piece, it's your adjustment screw, and then inside of here, you tip it over, you'll get a stack of washers that are, they're beveled. It's hard to see just by looking at them. But they're just little black washers to bevel. If you're going to put in the Huma regulator and you don't want to do any other work, you can take all these washers, face them one way, and then install them back in. Just by dropping them in there. Make sure that they don't get switched around. So you take all your washers, put them in there like so. And then you just take this Allen wrench and just tighten it all the way down. That will bypass your stock regulator. Since I want to leave this, I'm going to pull this back out. Dump out my stack of washers. Now I've tried removing this before and it's been stuck, so I got some chunks of rubber and I'm going to try and remove it again with those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this rubber piece, just wrap it in there and put it in this vise. Now that I got that, I'll tighten it down tight. Now it feels good and tight. Actually, there we go. Then what I'm gonna try and do is use a vice grips with rubber wrapped around here when I clamp onto it. And see if, no, that's not gonna work. Here, I'll try some black tape. What I don't want to do is mess up any of these sealing surfaces or the threads. I'll just take black tape, wrap around there. And take a piece of leather and put it around here. Clamp on it. And it still doesn't work. The next thing I'm going to try is I'm going to take a punch go right on one of those holes there and see if I can tap it and break it loose. Nope. There we go. Broke loose that time. Oh, we should be able to unscrew that. So I get this part off, so it screws into there. And then inside, let's get that out of there. And that's what we have inside of that regulator. There we go. We will take and unscrew that out of there. And this is going to start spinning on us. So I'm just going to take a pliers. Pliers here. And squeeze onto that brass part. There we go. And then I should be able to unscrew this the rest of the way. There's a screw. I'll come out of there. And then here's your nylon washer. So you can kind of see this part's flat and there's a little bevel on this edge where this screw goes into. And you can kind of see that the screw has a bevel there. I'll go ahead and pull it out. You got an O-ring there, and that's inside. So this is the piece that normally you'd have all your washers sitting on. Right there. Take that and set it there. And this there. And that's pretty much it for disassembly, except for the end of their tube. Like I said, I would pull it apart, but I just don't have a reason to right now. Maybe if it starts leaking, I'll take it apart and video it. But I don't want to tear it apart if I don't have to, in case if it does cause a leak, because it seems like anytime you take this one apart and put it back together, there's always a few leaks.